Welcome. In the next few lessons, we're going to be creating what's called an internal Geneva mechanism. The result will work like you see here on my screen. Now in this lesson, instead of calculating the Geneva mechanism parameters such as the diameter of the wheel, of the crank, the distance between the center of the wheel and the center of the crank, and so on, we're going to use a different method. We'll use a layout sketch and geometric relations between the parts of the mechanism. And later on in this course, we're going to build an external Geneva mechanism. Okay, let's get started. Let's cancel out of the Begin Assembly Property Manager. Instead of using a layout sketch, let's start with a regular sketch. Right-click on the top plane, insert a sketch. First, I'm going to create a sketch for the wheel. I'll need 2 concentric circles. Now let's apply dimensions. The inner circle will be 80 millimeters in diameter, okay. And the outer circle will be 200 millimeters in diameter. Next, I'll place 2 construction lines. Right-click and chain. And right-click and select to close the tool. Let's select this line and the origin point and add a midpoint relation. Same thing here, select the construction line and the origin point, midpoint relation. Now let's shift select both lines and add an equal relation. And let's apply some dimensions to our lines. 180 millimeters, okay. And right-click and select to close the tool. Now let's activate the Offset Entities command. Select this line. Bidirectional and cap ends are checked, as well as add dimensions and select chain. The offset distance is going to be 5.5 millimeters. Tab. And let's select this line as well, accept. Let's reposition the dimensions a little bit. Zoom in, trim entities, trim to closest method is selected, and I'll trim away all these lines. Almost done? Okay. Let's accept. Now notice that we lost some relations. Some of our lines are no longer blacked out. Let's deselect everything. Control-select these 2 lines and add a collinear relation. Control-select these 2 lines, also collinear. Now let's add some construction geometry. Let's check for construction. And a second circle as well, also for construction. I'll add 2 points now, and we'll see why we need them in just a second. Control-select the construction lines, the construction circles, and one of the points, and add an intersection relation. Same thing here. The line, the circles, and the second point, intersection relation. Now we're ready to exit the sketch. In some cases, you may need more than one layout sketch. Instead of using just one sketch, which could be very crowded, you may just want to use more than one. Or you could use a combination of sketches and assembly layouts. For our example, let's use a second sketch. Right-click on the top plane, insert sketch. Now, in order for the mechanism to work, the crank pin has got to go through this point and at the same time stay inside this circle. I'm going to use a 3-point circle to accomplish this. There's my first point, the second point, and there's my third point. Right-click and select. Select both circles. Let's add a tangent relation. Deselect everything. Right now, I've got my relations hidden. Let's insert 2 more circles. There's one. And here's the second one. Right-click and select to close the tool. Now shift-select both circles and add an equal relation. Let's apply dimensions. 10 millimeter diameter will do it. Okay. Remember, the distance between the wall of the slot was 11 millimeters. The diameter of my pin here is 10 millimeters. That means we've got 1 millimeter total clearance, with 0.5 millimeter between the pin and the walls of the slot on both sides, as well as a 0.5 millimeter clearance between the pin and this arc over here. At this point, we've finished the layout sketch for the crank. We've got another component. Let's use a third layout sketch for the Geneva mechanism's base. Let's insert another sketch on the top plane, and let's start with 2 circles. Here's the second one. Right-click and select to close the tool. Now trim entities. Trim to closest method. Let's create a construction line between this point and this point. Right-click and select. Offset entities. Let's make it a 10 millimeter offset. Bidirectional and cap ends are checked. Accept, and let's create one more circle. Right-click and select. Now let's select this circle and this circle. Add a co-radial relation. OK. Our sketch is fully defined. Let's exit the sketch. Now we've got 3 layout sketches, so let's save our assembly. Click on the Save button. Accept the default name and save. And we'll see you back in our next lesson.